So, hi everybody. We've been doing these videos to introduce the members of the Insight Leadership team, and I'm here this morning with Misha, one of one of the team. Beautiful Misha. It's such a delight to be with you. um, and we've sort of said in shorthand that in the team we have an ex-millionaire and we have an ex-athlete and we have a this and a that, and we talk about you as our monk. But I'd like to hear you tell us a little bit about how you kind of define yourself and your journey that's brought you to be here in the team. So, yeah, over to you. How would you describe yourself, Misha?
That's beautiful. Thank you, Heather, because nobody is actually asking this question. Everybody, and I've been, to send that out first, I've been a Buddhist monk for 14 years, but this is not who I solely am, right? I'm somebody else now, and I have been somebody else before. And our teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, he said that a flower consists of non-flower elements,
Mm.
right? Of the earth, the sun, the rain, the love, the care, different conditions. And if you only take one of these conditions away, a flower cannot be a flower. So it needs many, many me's to become myself, basically. And the same is true with us, with me. So I am more non-me or non-monk elements, you know. I consist of non-monk elements and of non-Misha elements. I have parents, I have the air too, I have the sun, I have the rain, the water, all the minerals that make up Misha. But yeah, and that's why it's so beautiful. People tend to see me as the monk and say, "Oh, you've been in the monastery for so long, and what an experience." And I said, it was, of course, an experience. It was a decision that I made, but it was just a normal life, just in a different outfit, in a different setting. But everybody makes decisions all the times, and you live with their consequences. Let's say, and there comes always a price you pay with a decision and the consequence. And if you do this with your whole heart because you really want it, then you won't question or regret or say, "Oh yes, a monk, a banker, an actor," but you're just you and not you at the same time because you're made of so many things. So yes, I see myself and I call myself Mönch Misha, as you say, and Mönch is a playing of words between the German word Mensch, which is a human being, and Mönch, which sounds very similar to Mensch, Mönch, which is a monk. Now, in English, I was thinking you could translate it into mank, but that sounds like a man and a monk, because I'm also pulling in this experience, which has had a tremendous effect and evolution, starting an evolution inside of me, because I made this decision to become a monk because I wanted to understand myself better. Why do I suffer, and why do I always suffer from the same things, and why don't I learn from that? And then I learned about habit energies. I learned about the ancestral stream. I learned about perceptions. I learned about how the mind actually works and how I can nurture myself. So this had a tremendous effect on healing, on personal understanding, which expanded to understanding others too, because I look and I listen to my family, to my friends, to people around me with different eyes and different ears. The same ears I have learned about myself, I'm now curious to hear their story and how their mind works and which habit energies they have developed and which ancestral stream they're flowing in and if they are aware of it. And this is so interesting. I had a history of, after school, I studied alternative medicine and I became a naturopath in my own practice. So my aspiration was always to heal, to understand, to bring wholeness, holistic approach as a naturopath. and I worked with reflexology, acupuncture. I worked with sound, the frequencies and the vibrational healing, as we called it back then. Now it's called quantum healing. It all changes in words, but basically it's about using your body and your mind as a vibrational organism in this world where everything vibrates and carries a certain frequency, and to adapt and adjust that to that, like the conditions of the flower, to make a flower, to collect conditions together to make healing possible, to make understanding possible, and for you to vibrate on a frequency that actually serves you to be your best version, I can say, or the version in this moment that serves you best. Because there are days where you need other frequencies. You're up, you're down, you're excited, you're sad. And yeah, the Buddha said that the mind works like tuning a string, a guitar string. If it's too loose, you don't get a sound of it. If it's too strongly and tight, it will snap. And so we try to adjust our state of minds with mindfulness, with meditation, which are frequencies themselves,
Mm.
as a way to attune ourselves to that stream of life through these perceptions we are perceiving with our sense organs, with the thoughts and emotions that are passing and flowing through our minds and our hearts, and to harmonize them, to be content, fulfilled, at peace, and then share it from inside out. So that was my work as a naturopath and led me into that spiritual discovery of the mind and myself. And now coming back,
I want to jump in and ask a
yeah,
question, if I
go
may.
ahead.
It's so beautiful and so inspiring what you're saying, and what you've discovered through that journey. But you mentioned a moment ago about habit energies. And I
Mm-hmm.
imagine that people watching this are curious to hear, what are those habit energies that you felt you needed
I
to
see.
get to know and to transform? And yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about that journey of transformation.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, habit energies is another word for having habits. That's what everybody can relate to. Everybody has habits. And if it's just like first thing in the morning is to have a coffee or a cup of tea. And if you do that every day, it might be a ritual, but it also might be a routine. If it's a ritual, you do it more consciously, maybe savoring it more and deeper. And if it's a routine, you just do it automatically in order to function. So one is to come alive, and the other is to function, maybe ritual versus routine. But we have inherited, talking about the ancestral stream again, from our parents and grandparents, and this whole stream that is flowing through us, and we grew up with and were educated by and raised certain habit energies that we are not even aware of. And it becomes sometimes this OCD thing, right? This obsessive compulsive disorder, because we can't live without these habits anymore, or we think that we can't live with them because they define who we are or they give us stability, and we never try dropping them, and we never ask if they actually serve us. And coming back to these vibrations, if they're actually vibrating on a frequency that serves us in this very moment, because the moment flows is a stream itself, and we have to be awake, aware, mindful in order to see where we are right now, in what environment we are, in what state we are, and how we can support or raise or lower or smoothen uh, yeah, that state, that environment we're finding ourselves in.
But what
So
were the habit energies that you transformed?
you want to know mine,
Hear
huh?
about yours.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of my habit energies was I was a smoker when I came to the monastery. I smoked cigarettes and I really enjoyed it. I told myself I really enjoyed it. So I kept on smoking while I was writing my letter of aspiration to become a monk. And they were wondering, like, because monks obviously don't smoke, well, at least not in Europe, in Vietnam, and that's a different story. And then one day they came to me and said, like, we received your letter, you want to become a monk? And I said, yes. And then they said, and you're still smoking? I said, yes, mindfully. I'm smoking mindfully. I said, and they said, well, that's not going well together. So if you really want to pursue your aspiration, you shall quit smoking. And I said, but will you then receive me and accept me as a monk? They said, we can't tell you yet, this is a process. I said, whoa, so if I stop smoking now, my habit, which I did for, I don't know, 20 years, and then you come and say you don't accept me, then I don't have anything left. I don't have the smoking and I don't have the community. So I don't know about this. Can we have a deal? So the moment you accept me as a monk, I will stop smoking. I will quit. And they said, no, that's not how it's working. And this was my toughest transformation. This was my toughest turning a habit into a more conscious, let's call it event, because I reduced and I had to find a strategy. I reduced not to quit smoking from today to tomorrow because I knew I won't be able to do this after 20 years of smoking. I have to do it gradually. So I had one package of cigarettes, and every day I removed one, right? So when I smoked 20, one package at one day, the next day it would only be 19. The next day it would only be 18. The next day only 17. And when I came down to three, and it worked very well, I was still able to smoke as usual, but I felt like something is happening, shifting. There is fear coming up. I'm losing something, some sort of identity, some sort of freedom, some sort of relaxedness, everything I connected with smoking, having a break, being on your own, having a creative moment, like just rejuvenating or, like taking a little break. And I was left with three cigarettes. So I said, what do I do with it? Three cigarettes after some weeks. And I said, okay, morning after breakfast, after lunch, and after dinner. That's what I did. And it felt good because this was a moment where I already felt like, wow, not only can you do it, but it's completely fine. And you still have these moments of enjoyment, of being relaxed, of being by yourself for a moment in nature, outside somewhere. I had to hide behind a bush. The abbot didn't like that I smoke in the monastery, so I had to go out of the monastery, have a little stroll. Next day, I had only two left. So which meal do I skip? So I decided to skip breakfast, and I had my two cigarettes after lunch and after dinner. And then the last day, I had only one cigarette left before I quit smoking. And I thought, which meal would it be, or what time of the day I want to smoke this last cigarette to really make it a lasting experience, a memorable one. Like this is the end of my transformation, the end of my change, the end of my habit energy that carried me for 20 years, and now it comes to an end. So this was like a big moment. And you know what happened? I don't know if I was overwhelmed to make a decision, but I didn't feel I want to smoke it.
Mm.
I didn't smoke the last cigarette. I stopped smoking two the day before, and then I
Wow.
just said, no, I don't want it. And this was a big moment for me to have changed the habit energy into a new habit energy. My new habit energy was just to breathe after the meals or take a little stroll or have a cup of tea, something like this.
So, Misha, we've only got 1 or 2 minutes left for this conversation, but I'm really struck by what you've just said, and knowing that your name, your Dharma name, your name as a monk was Brother Freedom. And what I hear in that is some sort of detachment from an identity. You said your habit of smoking was bound up in some sort of identity, and a release into some sort of freedom. Do you
Absolutely.
have anything more to say about that with the
Absolutely. You know, the smoking was only one example of many habit energies, but personally to me, it was the most difficult to transform, to
Yeah,
look at,
yeah.
you know, because smoking is addictive. We all know that. And it became a very strong physical habit too, not only a mental. So I was loaded with, like everyone else, I guess, with habit energies. And I realized that long before the monastery. And all I wanted always to be is free.
Mm,
So having the name Brother Freedom didn't mean that I'm a free person, but that I really want to be a free person and to remind me every day when I hear my name what my original and true aspiration is to be a free person, free of myself, you
mm.
know, free of myself, meaning like coming back to the flower, that I'm not a flower without being non-flower elements. And so this is what I'm pursuing. And every moment I ask myself, am I free in this moment? You know, free of my habit energies, free of my perceptions, free of my identity. Am I a free person? Can I go where I want? Or are there moments where I say, no, you are a Mensch Misha, you have to do things like this. You've been an ex-monk, you have to put your shoes neatly next to the door, you know? No, I don't have to do anything. I have to dive into the freedom of each moment, stepping into freedom and decide with a pure heart what's next. And this is living in freedom. This is mindfulness in my eyes. This is meditation, like living from the middle, from inside out.
So beautiful. Yeah, thank you. And I think there's so much more to explore in there in terms of the
Oh, we could
idea
talk
of
forever,
freedom.
I'm
We
sure.
could. But thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for your lovely questions and to allow me to express
Nancy.
myself. Yeah, thank you.